I am your teacher, Mr. Pacitti, and this is my classroom here in Kansas City. So put away your mobile phones, put away Jack's desk. Special effects, bitches. It's time to concentrate, it's time to study. This is Monday Night Raw, and this is Graded. We kick things off with Kofi Kingston, the first wild card, blah, blah, blah. He says that last week Big E was re-injured at the hands of Kevin Owens. Dolph Ziggler tried to take him out, but he's still standing. Better than he ever did, looking like a Drew. However, Dolph Ziggler is not the reason that Kofi Kingston is here on Raw. He is here for Mr. Money in the Bank, and he pretty much invites Brock Lesnar to come out and cash in on him here tonight. But it's not Brock who comes out, it's Seth Rollins, the Universal Champion. Seth says he doesn't want to wait any longer. He wants to know who Brock intends to cash in the contract on. Get out here, Brock. Let's go, boy. That's what he did. It was weird. Out comes Brock. And let me tell you, they are going full hog with the Brocks and meme stuff. So, the Money in the Bank briefcase now contains actual speakers. He comes out, he's blasting Kofi's music, he's blasting Seth's music, and you know that WWE are going to force this down our throats, but quite liked it. He was dancing like, well, a 300-pound white man, and I enjoyed it a lot personally this week. But they're going to keep doing it, but for now, it was good, so buy the bloody t-shirt. Seth then gets fed up of Brock's trolling and just goes, oh, screw it, and just walks up the ramp. And then Heyman calls the whole party off because Seth is so selfish, he's a party pooper, and that's the end of the segment. Except it's not, because then outruns Dolph Ziggler, attacks Kofi Kingston, lays him out with a zigzag on the ramp. Xavier then makes the save before Dolph can do any more damage, but then as Kofi's being helped up the ramp, Xavier is attacked from behind by Dolph Ziggler. They scrap into the crowd area, and then Kofi has to make the save, and then Dolph cuts a promo at the top of the ramp, basically saying, at Super ShowDown, I'm going to take home what is rightfully mine. It's 11 days away. I'm going to Saudi Arabia. Well, he didn't say Saudi Arabia. I'm going to that country to take home the WWE title. So, I should say at this point that we are 30 minutes into this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. There is an awful lot to grade here, but overall, this whole thing gets a B. I like Brock leaning into this newly found meme status of him. At least now, if he's going to be back, it feels like he's got a little bit of personality, and him coming out and trolling both champions makes it feel like he doesn't care about either champion. I will say, regarding the Dolph Ziggler attack, it feels like nothing was achieved really up until that point, up until that happened, and the Dolph Ziggler attack maybe could have happened on SmackDown rather than just throwing everything at this opening segment of Raw, but I still enjoyed it, even if it did go a little bit long, hence the B. Next up, out comes the best in the world, Shane McMahon. He talks about the Samoan dynasty and how important respect is to that culture. But Roman Reigns must have missed the memo because he is a bastard. He talks about High Chief Peter Maivia, The Rock, the Usos, the Head Shrinkers, the Wild Samoans, Yokozuna? What are you talking about, Shane? He was from the land of the rising sun, and Rodney is a classic Japanese name, you idiot. Anyway, Shane's opponent tonight is Lance Anoa'i. He is part of that Samoan dynasty, he is part of the Anoa'i family. He is Roman's cousin, according to commentary. I looked at Wikipedia, they've got a family tree on there, can't quite work it out, but he didn't look like his cousin. But for all intents and purposes, for the story, he is Roman's cousin. But before the bell even rings, Drew grabs him, pulls him to the outside, throws him into the crowd barrier, the ring post, the steps, tosses him back in, and long story short, Shane locks him in a submission hold, and he taps out in mere minutes. During this match, there are big, this is awful, and AEW chants. However, I enjoyed this segment, and as a result, I'm giving it a B-. I understand why the crowd might have been a bit impatient at this point. They're 30 minutes in to the show. They haven't seen a proper match yet. They finally get a match and it lasts a couple of minutes. It's a glorified squash match. However, I would argue that this presented Shane McMahon in the way that he should have been presented all along, and that is not as a wrestler. If he's a babyface, he's a glorified stuntman who will do anything to win the match, but he's not a wrestler. If he's a heel, he relies on bigger, badder men to do his bidding for him, but he is not a wrestler, and that is what happened here. Even if he did lock in a submission hold, Drew did the work for him. Secondly, we fans always talk about the need for storylines. It's not wrestling that sells a wrestling event, it's storylines. Those are the things that we remember. And there is some semblance of a story here. Shane McMahon and his big Scottish friend just utterly brutalized one of Roman Reigns' relatives, his real life cousin, sort of. If that's not a reason to have a wrestling match, then I don't know what is. Thirdly, Shane was decent on the mic last night, especially when he kept that submission hold locked and he was trash-talking Seeker, Roman Reigns' real-life father. He was detestable. He was despicable. He was really good. It was great heel work. I liked it a lot. And then after all this happens, when Roman Reigns finally comes down to the ring and loses it, Shane manages to run away. He doesn't want to wrestle him because he's not a wrestler. You're probably going to disagree with me here. The crowd last night certainly disagreed with me here, but I enjoyed this segment for what it was, and I hope Shane continues to be presented in this way. He won't be, but you know what I'm saying. Out next is Brock Lesnar. Again, strap yourselves in, boys and girls. We're in for another 20-minute promo. He is here to announce who he will cash in his Money in the Bank contract again. Burn it down! Out comes Seth Rollins. Seth calls Brock Lesnar a joke, and then Paul Heyman starts reading through the contract, at which point Brock Lesnar realizes that he actually has a whole year to cash in his Money in the Bank contract. He slaps Paul Heyman around the face with the contract and basically just goes, "Screw you, Seth, that was terrible. Screw you, Seth, I'm going home." And he leaves. He leaves Seth stood in the ring like a total and utter bell end, trolling it up again. And I love the idea that Brock Lesnar cares so little about pro wrestling in the WWE, he doesn't even know what the rules of the contract that he just won are. So yes, fortunately this didn't last 20 minutes, it maybe lasted 6 or 7 minutes, and Brock Lesnar again showing more personality than he has done in the WWE in like 5 years. Can't complain, it's another B. I know you hate me, but another B. Oh, and then RTruth runs through the crowd. He's being chased by Eric Young, EC3, Gallows, Anderson. There were probably others there as well. He manages to escape with his 24/7 title, and he does so for the rest of the night. There are backstage segments with a big party going on. RTruth manages to hold on to that 24/7 title. They lasted like 30 seconds, these segments, and I find them quite refreshing. Not everything has to be super serious. These are fun. The crowd seemed into it too. It's exciting. It's unpredictable. It's a bit lame. Not necessarily for us hardcore wrestling fans, but I think they're fun enough. Next up, it's time for an actual match. Finally, Becky Lynch and Nikki Cross taking on the women's tag team champions, the IIconics. Pretty standard tag affair here. Good to see Nikki Cross being featured finally on TV. It was a huge mistake breaking up Sanity, but Nikki Cross is so good that she could only go unnoticed for so long, and hopefully it's the same for the likes of Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf, who is now popped up in NXT UK. So fingers crossed they got plans for the others. But yes, very good to see Nikki Cross on TV again. There was good heel work from the IIconics as Billie Kay kicks away Becky's hand as she goes for the hot tag. Long story short, once again, Becky Lynch wins the match for Team Babyface with a rock bottom. Sort of. I'm not making this up. It wasn't actually a rock bottom, and if it was a very poorly executed one. This is actually Becky Lynch's new finisher. It's called the Manhandle Slam, and it's super impactful, except for last night where it didn't look especially good. I'm perplexed by this because the Disarmer is a good looking move. Got the Bexploder suplex, that's all good. I don't really think she needs this. Not sure why they're introducing it now. Hopefully it was just a bit flubbed last night because it just didn't look especially good. The match itself was fine. It gets a C. After the match, Lacey Evans comes out and does her Abe Simpson thing. I'm glad that's back. And then it's time for a battle of the two really bloody good wrestlers. Cesaro taking on Ricochet. This was great, as you would expect. It gets an A-. We saw flips, submission attempts, technical wrestling, flips, more flips. There was a Canadian destroyer. There was a swing, uppercuts. I've said flips. It's Cesaro and Ricochet. You know it's going to be good. Both guys look fantastic. Match of the night for me. And then Ricochet picks up the win with the Hurricane Rana pin. You know the thing that Rey Mysterio used to do? He would jump off the ropes and then phew, like that. 1, 2, 3. That was the finish. And I don't have a problem with Ricochet beating Cesaro. That's not an issue. But after Cesaro won last week, it's just another example of 50-50 booking and WWE failing to just properly get behind someone. Not everyone has to win all the time. It's once again an example of win and losses, just they don't matter, do they? And that's very, very frustrating. Cesaro is obviously a future world champion, or he should be. Ricochet, I would say the same too, but Cesaro at this point deserves it more. Just let him go for it. Come on, I'm whinging about one bloody result that I didn't like. You know what I mean, hopefully. I just don't want to see any more 50-50 booking. And then we find out that Rey Mysterio next week on Raw will have to relinquish his US title due to injury. He only won it a few weeks ago at Money in the Bank, and he's already having to drop it. And then Joe comes out and says he's going to take back what is rightfully his. And he's right. Shouldn't have dropped it in the first place. You're brilliant, Joe. I hope you get back what is rightfully yours. Hold it for 10 years, because you've had a hard time on the main roster. Next up, it's a fatal four-way match. Braun Strowman, The Miz, Bobby Lashley, and Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin, of course, earlier in the night attacked AJ Styles, who was already injured. Heat magnet, what's he like? He then only goes on to win the bloody match. As for the match itself, this was more enjoyable than it had any right to be. Braun Strowman demolishing everyone at ringside was fun. Bobby Lashley got in some cool offense. The Miz looked great too. Baron Corbin picking up the win with the end of days, which means he's going on to face Seth Rollins at Super ShowDown. Seth Rollins, Baron Corbin, Universal title match. It doesn't reek main event to me. I don't think this is going to be what we're actually going to get. Will we see Brock inserted into that? Will AJ make a miraculous recovery and be inserted into that? Maybe. It just feels a bit weird at this point to me. But as for the match, not too bad at all. It gets a B. And now it's time for the main event of Raw. As far as I'm concerned, it's been the highlight now for like 5 or 6 weeks. It's Firefly Fun House. Bray Wyatt continuing the creepy split personality thing. He did the backwards walk thing. He did that under a limbo stick. It was great. I will say that I think they need to, sooner rather than later, get on to Bray Wyatt's in-ring return. Hopefully not at Saudi Arabia. That's not where I want to see it, but I think that needs to come sooner rather than later, because I'm not tiring of these, but I think in a few more weeks I may start to tire. I think now is the time to get Bray out there. And next up, it's time for the first ever electric chair, hosted by Corey Graves. His guest tonight is Sami Zayn. Let me explain what the electric chair is. In an effort to increase audience engagement, WWE are now fielding questions from the WWE universe. The people in attendance, they go to them with a mic and they get to ask seemingly whatever question they like. Obviously, it's a bit pre-produced, but I don't think they were plants. They weren't good enough to be plants. No offense. No offense. And then, they get to ask the question to the superstar who is in the electric chair, the thing that kills people when they do murders and stuff. Sounds great on paper, right? Well, no, not really, but the sadist in me really likes this, because this is probably going to end with some young whippersnapper calling a heel an effing C word or something like that. This could lead to car crash television, and I'm all for that. So Sami answers the audience questions. Not really. He's got pre-prepared stuff that he just sort of slots in place. He doesn't really answer the questions as they're delivered. But he also mentioned AEW. At the end, he was like, you could have asked me about AEW. Literally said the name of the rival promotion. I don't know the thinking behind this. I'm absolutely positive that it was scripted. I don't think he would have just done that because heat for days. Apparently, AEW search traffic went like that. I'm not sure if that was a Vince call, what was in it for the WWE by doing that. But interesting to see, and I think we'll probably keep seeing AEW references as time goes on. It's a weird time to be a wrestling fan. Anyway, I'm very glad that Sami was the man to be in the electric chair, because if you get someone who is not as good as improv as Sami Zayn is, it's going to be even more car crash TV-y. It's going to be really good, this, isn't it? I'm going to give this an A, in the hope that somebody at the WWE sees this grade and thinks, hey, that must mean the internet wrestling community loves the electric chair segment. Let's do more. Let's put Bobby Lashley. He's got loads of banter. Put him in the electric chair. That'll be fantastic. Oh, and then Seth runs out because his name is mentioned, and we get our main event. It's a Universal title match. Seth Rollins taking on Sami Zayn. And the match was a really good one. Once again, as you would expect from Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn, two tremendous wrestlers. And it just sort of made me want to see a proper feud involving these two, rather than a match that just seems so thrown together. Seth Rollins hurts his knee, obviously, so Sami Zayn capitalizes on that, but it doesn't work out for Sami as he eats a curb stomp. 1, 2, 3, still Universal Champion is Seth Rollins in a decent match, which gets a B+. It was good, it wasn't quite as good as Cesaro and Ricochet from earlier in the night. Brock Lesnar was watching on from backstage, teasing the cash-in. That was cool. Really hope that doesn't happen in Saudi Arabia, because I want to see him hold that briefcase for a little bit longer. Hopefully that promo earlier in the night means that that's going to happen. Brock realizing that he's got a whole bloody 12 months, but if the Saudis want that, then I guess that's what we'll get. Yep, this match essentially felt like a dark match, something to send the crowd home happy. The last shot that we see is Seth celebrating with the title, and that's it. It was a bit of an underwhelming end to the show, and this is a week that WWE really, I feel, needed to do something a little bit special. Following Saturday night, Double or Nothing has been celebrated as one of the best pay-per-views of the last year, regardless of which promotion you watch. A lot of people, pretty much everyone was happy with the pay-per-view, and then we get another average episode of Raw. It wasn't bad. It was just average, and nothing special happened. It gets a C+. So that's it from me. I will be back tomorrow with more Graded for SmackDown Live. Jack, Sam, Ross are all resting their weary eyes. They've just come back from Vegas, so they will be back on the channel soon. Hope you're enjoying Tom Campbell. Didn't think of a joke. Didn't write a joke before I came in. Actually, why did the chicken cross the... Oh, actually, no. That's terrible. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.